Oh, how are you doing, guys? Welcome to RacinGameShow. My name is Wojtek, and today we're gonna do a review of Thrustmaster TX wheel, and that's a Ferrari 458 Italia Edition. Let's start with a few words about Thrustmaster itself. The company has quite a big traditions when it comes to PC peripherals. I think they were founded in 1990s, so it's over 20 years now. And they made their name. They made a name for themselves with the flight simulations peripherals for PC. And as far as I know, in 1999 they produced their first steering wheel for the PCs. So that's when they started with the racing wheels. And I suppose they were a little bit in the shadows, especially after Logitech started with the G25 wheel. Also later on with the Fanatics going out on the market and releasing quite a good number of different force feedback wheels, so Thrustmaster stayed in the shadow. But it all changed in 2010 when they released a Thrustmaster T500 RS wheel, and with that wheel they really put themselves back on the sim racing market. Now, this little wheel was released in December of 2013, and it was right after Xbox One release, and as you're probably guessing now, it was designed specially for Xbox One console. At the same time, it's compatible with PCs, and unfortunately is incompatible with PS4 and even with PS3. I don't know why it's incompatible with PS3, because every PC wheel so far was compatible with PlayStation 3, but not this one, unfortunately. It's blocked somehow artificially. I really don't like it, but yeah, that's the way it is. So it's compatible just with Xbox One and PCs. Also, there's no backward compatibilities with Xbox 360. Alright, so that's about the introduction. Let's get started and talk about the models. And we're gonna talk about the models because Thrustmaster created the whole ecosystem around their wheels. So that means the wheel rim, wheelbase, and sorry about that, and the pedals are kind of separate models. In this edition we have this three pieces you can see here. So basic pedal set, Ferrari 458 wheel rim, and the wheelbase. Wheelbase also comes with the clamp. So this whole modular ecosystem by Thrustmasters allows you to upgrade all this setup in the future. You could have different pedals, different wheel rims, and also additional shifters if you prefer to shift with shifters rather than paddles. Okay, and coming to that, we're gonna start with the pedals. And as you can see, well, you probably can't see it, but it's all made out of plastic. Lack of clutch pedal would signal and would kind of show you it's a basic and kind of a starter set of pedals. And yeah, you wouldn't be wrong about that. They are quite light, they're very stiff, there's absolutely no flex in the build. It's a hollow box, so could create some noise when pushing pedals hard. And when it comes to pedals and pedals resistance, I must say they are quite nicely balanced, because throttle being a little bit lighter than a brake, and it still has a nice and smooth resistance. There's no really any kind of difficulties. The movement is very smooth and uninterrupted. Same when it comes to brake. It is quite stiff, and thanks to that, yeah, you could use this. It's quite, as I said, it's nicely balanced when it comes to tension, and wherever you could use the shoes if you prefer to race with shoes, and it's still gonna work very well. The your foot won't collapse even on the bit lighter throttle pedal. It will still work quite nicely, and at the same time it's not too stiff when it comes to the brake pedal. The only problem with the brake pedal is that it lacks any kind of progression, so you need to use quite a lot of power even for the slightest movement, and that probably kills a bit of precision at the very early stage of the braking. So sometimes I had particular trouble coming from Club Sport wheels. I really kind of struggle to do these small dabs with my leg. You probably wouldn't have that kind of issues if that's your first wheel. So that's why I could say it's really decent set of starter pedals, because there is no any kind of flex as well on the pedals. They are very smooth, especially at the brake pedal. There is no any kind of dead zones here. There is a bit of dead zone in the throttle at the top, but yeah, you could kind of get away with that. It's not on the throttle, it's not that big of an issue. If you would have a dead zone on the brake, that would create an issue, but there's no any dead zone on the throttle pedal, so that's definitely plus. So let's see what's underneath there. As you could see, you could have this cable guide, I don't know how to call it, but you could have it right and left, and it features these rubber legs around here that's supposed to provide some grip on the wooden floors, and they probably do provide some grip, but definitely not enough if you want to raise this wheel on the just on the wooden floor. That's definitely, these grips are definitely not enough. It's kind of okay-ish on the carpet. It is manageable. The pedal still will move around, but it is manageable on the carpet. And obviously they have a hard mounting point, so if you have any wheel stand or seam rig, you could hard mount them, and that's obviously the recommended way to place the pedals. Also, you could, if you're racing over the desk, it's good to just wedge them against something, obviously not against the wheel, but something on the floor, a wall or the back of the desk, and you'll be grand. So, cable is long enough and it connects to the wheel, and that's about it when it comes to pedals. Just to summarize about them, yeah, this is definitely a good, decent pedal set if it's your first wheel. If you had like a Club Sport pedals or even T500 RS wheel before, this set will be a kind of a disappointment. But yeah, they were designed to be the top-notch, top of the range, and they are totally basic pedals. And we leave it at that. And we're gonna move on to the rim. Let's talk about the rim itself. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, the rim itself could be detached, and I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna show you how it works and how it's gonna get detached. I'm gonna disconnect it, and this connection is also a bit of a bummer. I'm gonna explain that later on when I talk about the base. Okay, where is my screwdriver? To remove the rim, all you need is a screwdriver, because the wheel itself is just tightened with the one screw. Just give me 1 second, I'm gonna grab a screwdriver. Okay, I got a screwdriver. Just gonna show you that it's quite easy to interchange the rim itself. So it's a matter of losing one screw, putting it aside, and I won't be able to demonstrate exactly, but you have to grab it and kind of unscrew it. There you go, almost done, and voila. And replacing it back is also as simple as that. So to exchange the wheel, it takes about, let's say, 2 minutes. So it's not a quick release, but at the same time it's quite a painless process. Okay, so we can hold it in my hands, and I'm gonna talk about the wheel now. First thing you notice, it's made out of plastic, with the paddles being the only aluminum part on that wheel. And thanks to that, it's very, very light, which is, in my opinion, it's quite an important feature, because it's gonna allow you to deliver better force feedback. So lightness of this wheel is a really big plus. It's also very, very stiff. I'm using a load of strength and there's no flex at all, as you can see. It features 7 standard buttons, plus additional 2 buttons here at the back, behind the paddles, which is quite a nice touch. It's quite handy. Obviously it has 2 paddles, it has a D-pad. This one button is actually a D-pad, and I really don't like this one. I think on original you could switch between 5 positions. In here it's just, you could either push it up or down, so basically it's just 2 additional buttons. Now, as you can see, buttons are marked with the Xbox options, etc, etc. But yeah, going to PC, you can basically use them for anything you want. You don't really have to worry about those markings here. Buttons works very nice. They are in those 2, or those 4 I must say, they within instant reach. When you hold the wheel like that, it's an instant reach, which is very, very nice. You have to reach out for those 2, and you probably have to change your position on the wheel if you want to use D-pad, etc. D-pad kind of lacks a bit of precision. It's a bit of clunky. It's easy enough to push down when you try to push right or left, etc, etc. It's not perfect, but yeah, it does the job, let's say. So if you're careful, you sometimes have to be careful to don't push this on the wrong side. 2 paddles, as I mentioned, the only aluminum part on that wheel. They have a nice and good positive, nice short throw. But in my opinion, it's a bit too noisy. I really don't like this click. It's neither realistic or it's just a bit too noisy, especially if this hollow plastic wheel. It actually exaggerates this noise a tiny bit. Now, let's bring it farther down. As you can see, it's not a perfect circle, and you can't really blame them for that, because that's the way it is in the original Ferrari. So they couldn't really go away too far from that replication process. They made few good changes, like let's say it's not 1 button, it's bring it 4 buttons here, which is positive. I think this is only just 1 button on the original Ferrari. It has 2 buttons here, so they did some compromises for extra functionality, but it's still, at the same time, I think doing replicas brings you limitations. It brings you limitations on button placement, size of the paddles, wheel shape. I'm personally not a fan of replicas in racing wheels for the computer, because let's get it straight, I won't be racing Ferrari all the time. I will be racing 100 different cars. So some kind of generic wheel probably would be better in my opinion. But yeah, that's just my opinion. I really don't care about this Ferrari logo here, to be honest with you. Oh yeah, there's one more thing I forgot to mention about the paddles. They are quite short here at the bottom. So when you're in this position, and I have quite small hands, only middle finger is actually within comfortable reach of the paddles. If you try to use this, it might slip. If you like to use the small finger, it's a no-no in this wheel. Doesn't bother me in the slightest, but if you like to use other fingers, you might be disappointed. Now, I don't know if I mentioned, but yeah, the whole wheel is made of plastic. It might be looking kind of cheap, but it really doesn't bother me. It's a very good quality plastic. It's very stiff, as I mentioned at the beginning. Like if you could put loads of pressure on it and there's no flex at all in it. And at the same time, it allows it to be very, very light, which is a very big plus. The other thing, there's one thing I don't really like. It's this rubber covering around it. It definitely gives loads of grip, and the overall grip on the wheel, the shape and all, it's kind of cool. It took me to get used to a bit after coming from Fanatec, but I like it after using this for a while, and I can't complain. But in my opinion, this rubber has too much grip actually. You will be granted it's not gonna slip on you, but in my opinion, it's a bit too much grip. And when I say too much grip, because when you're going to slide and sometimes have to turn a lot and release the wheel with one hand, re-grabbing this wheel when it comes back, it's just too grippy. It also kind of disqualifies this wheel when you want to use that for drifting. So if you're looking for a drifting setup, you have to think about changing this wheel rim straight away. So because it's not going to work due to its shape, as if it's not perfect circle, and changeable grip around the rim. So that's something to consider if you're looking for a drifting setup. Just to summarize, I race on the road and on the ovals. I race all kind of cars like GTs, open wheelers, street cars, and I didn't really need a field to look for another wheel rim for my setup. I'm really happy with this wheel. I know many sim racers would straight away buy another GT rim for it, but in my opinion, it works very nice with all kind of cars. Size-wise, I think it's 28 centimeters, so it is quite of a standard in these PC wheels. For me personally, it felt a bit small at the very beginning, especially coming down from Fanatec. But like I said, I'm using this for 6 months now, and I'm really, really happy, and I never felt a need to buy another rim. So it definitely does the job. Okay, I think that's gonna cover for the wheelbase. Sorry, wheel rim. And we're gonna move on to the base itself. That base is the reason I bought this wheel. It's really a star in the set, and that's something special. But let's start from the beginning. It features on all the 3 buttons. It has an Xbox guide button, a yellow button, I'm not too sure what it is for, and mode button here. All of them are for Xbox use. It also features Kinect sensor for Xbox One compatibility. Don't ask me what exactly it does, but it has something to do with pairing your person that sits behind the wheel with the profile on the console. I'm not really using that, so don't ask many options, but it was required to be compatible with Xbox One, so it is. Now, so it features this wheel features force feedback and 19 degrees of rotation, which is a standard in the racing wheels today. And because of the force feedback, and I must say strong force feedback, it has to be mounted somehow. It has to be mounted either to the desk or to the sim rig that I have here. The clamp for the desk is included. I didn't use it, but from what I heard, and everybody swears by it, the clamp is very, very good and will hold the wheel to the desk or table, or even a sim rig as well, without any problem. So if you're racing off a desk, you will have no problem with the clamp. And if you have a sim rig like me, there's an option to hard mount it with the screws, so no issues there. As you can see, it has quite a big footprint. know it's smaller than T500 RS, but it's still bigger than my old Fanatec GT2. I'm gonna try to grab it and give you some comparison. It's here. It's probably the angle doesn't do it justice, but yeah, Fanatec GT2, it is actually quite smaller. And it actually gave me some issues with my rig when I was setting this, changing the wheel, but not something you couldn't resolve. Now I'm gonna put the rim back and I'll try to do it as I speak. What's worth to mention, thanks to that pattern in here and at this mount, there's no way to put the wheel rim back in the wrong position, so it's quite important. You can't screw this up, and it's a bit harder to take this off than it was to put this on, but it's still easy enough. As you can see, it coming in nicely. Just need to tighten this up. It's tight now. It's a matter of replacing the screw. We're not gonna do this now, but I wanna mention, as you can see, it's not even a bolt, it's just a screw. And the problem I have with it is this screw goes into the plastic part on the wheel. They do mention to don't tighten it too much, and that's what is recommended. I wouldn't tighten it too long, too heavy, because all it has to do is just to ensure that the wheel doesn't get loose from the shaft. It doesn't really hold the wheel. As you can see, the wheel is held with this whole mount, I don't know how to call it, but it's not for the purpose of holding the wheel, it's just for the purpose to make sure it's not getting loose. Still, I think it's a bit of a flaw, because some people reported with T500 RS wheel, which had the same design, that it's, yeah, you might actually damage your wheel a bit. You might have a trouble with changing the rims later on. I didn't have any troubles, but as I mentioned before, I never bought any other rims to that wheel, so I never needed to take it off on before. And so we're gonna connect this now, and that's another problem I have with this wheel, because it doesn't feature on and off button. I don't know why, don't ask me why. It might have something to do with the Xbox compatibility, because I noticed when I turn off my Xbox and leave my wheel connected to it, the wheel obviously turns itself off. That's the calibration, but it doesn't recalibrate whenever you put the console back on. So that might be something to do with the design with the console. I don't know. I still think that's supposed to feature on and off switch somewhere on the base. It doesn't. So keep that in mind. And it's a really annoying when I want to turn on my PC, do something else on the PC, not racing. I turn on my PC and the wheel starts to calibrate again. I really don't like it, but I have to live with it. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up the driver and I'm gonna show you the forces this wheel could generate. Now it's automatically there's a spring on it, so it's quite powerful. I think it's 100% now. And trust me when I tell you, really have to use some strength to bring up the wheel. Just give me 1 second here. I'm just gonna try to find that. And I'm gonna show you a tiny bit of the forces it could generate. There's a test forcing on it, and it shows you different kind of. This is quite powerful. Punch, blown tire, bum, engine. Yeah, this shows you the power of the wheel. Can you see how this shakes my rig? And you can see how it quickly is able to change the direction of the rotation, which is very, very important when it comes to delivering force feedback in games. And did I mention that before? This force feedback quality is the only reason I bought this wheel. I was using Fanatec GT2 before, and you know, I was thinking maybe I should get a wheel for Forza, maybe not. And my friend bought this wheel. So I went to his house, obviously wanted to test it. And when I sat in the rig and started to drive at iRacing, it momentarily blew me away. Like the quality of force feedback, how smooth the wheel is, how little resistance it has, and how precisely and quickly force feedback is delivered. It totally blew me away out of the box. The first impression, I could actually drive on somebody else's setup with no problem at all. I was really surprised because I tried different kind of wheels in different kind of setups. I tried, obviously I used to drive a lot of Fanatec GT2. I tried Logitech G25. I tried Club Sport wheel as well. And none of those wheels made such a positive impression out of the box. I was really, really surprised how good force feedback it delivers. And in terms of force feedback, quality of force feedback, strength, it really is 10 out of 10. And after using this for 6 months, I really swear by this wheel. And I think, coming from Fanatec GT2, I am a faster driver. Maybe it's not the way I could deliver the faster times every single time, but it's definitely consistent. I could be safer when recovering from the recovering from the slides. It's really so much easier and much quicker to counter steer because there's so little resistance in the shaft here. And obviously, I mentioned this before, thanks to this rim being so light, it also helps with delivering such a very powerful force feedback. Let's bring this menu down. Yeah, from the bad sides, yeah, the noise of the fan, of the cooling fan, it goes on after 20-30 minutes of using, and apparently is quite noisy. It doesn't really bother me. I use the headphones, and even if you're using standard speakers, you're driving a car, so the car engine will be always much more noisy than the cooling fan you're gonna hear. So it doesn't bother me in the slightest. But yeah, it's worth mentioning it's there. Obviously, another big downside is the lack of power on and off button. Nice touch is that there's no external brick for the power. The power supply is inside the case as well, so that's maybe it's a bit bigger than the other wheels. It doesn't do me any difference, but yeah, it's worth mentioning that they managed to put the power supply inside the base as well. There's also, I had one problem when putting this wheel on my rig, because it's not flat at the bottom. And in my opinion, that actually takes away a tiny bit of fine-tuning you could do when you do the drilling on your own. And that actually put this wheel a bit closer to me than I wanted on my rig. Again, if you're gonna be first wheeling, gonna first put it on the rig for the first time, you won't have any trouble. But for me, coming from Fanatec GT2, I actually had this wheel a bit farther away from the screen, which I got used to this at this moment. But yeah, it actually wasn't very comfortable at the very, very beginning. But yeah, but that's just my individual problem with that. You might not have any issues with this not being flat at the bottom. Okay, so that's all about the rim. So we talk about all about the base. So we talk about the base, we talk about the rim, we talked about the pedals. Let's bring some final thoughts on the wheel. So I want to say a few final thoughts about this whole system, about this whole setup. You can get this whole set we just reviewed for about €350, $400, 300 pounds, that kind of price range. So it is a quite pricey setup, and at the same time it's a little bit inconsistent because the pedals we just mentioned at the very beginning, they are really just a basic starting setup that are really not in par or not to par with the base wheel we have here. And I'm pretty sure the base was actually driving this price quite high. So you're gonna have to decide for yourself if it's worth for you, but I put it that way. You could buy this set and buy additional pedals. I think the additional 3TPH pedals or something like that from Thrustmasters. That will be definitely an upgrade of what we have here. Gonna set you for about another €100, and that will bring you a very, very good quality wheel for under €500, which is still it is expensive, but it ensures that you have the best, well, one of the best force feedback wheels on the market. Because believe me, this base is, in my opinion, I prefer to race with this base with than Fanatec Club Sport V1 wheel. I tried this, and I think the force feedback is really better in this wheel than on Fanatec Club Sports wheel. It's not the same build quality because this is more of a toy. Fanatec Club Sport is more of a serious setup. It's really different build quality. But if it doesn't bother you, it's all made out of plastic, etc. It looks more like a toy rather than a proper racing wheel. It really is great setup, great force feedback, and that's the reason I have this wheel above Fanatec Club Sport wheel, because it's cheaper and it delivers as good, if not better performance as Club Sport wheel. Obviously you can see I'm using different pedals. I discounted that pedals immediately, but this whole set, this whole ecosystem that Thrustmaster created allows you to upgrade the pedals, upgrade the rim if you want to go with something else. So I would say it's a great first wheel that's gonna bring you into sim racing. You're gonna have a very good solid base that you could build on. You could buy better pedals later on. You could buy shifters, etc, etc. Just to mention, yeah, it looks like a toy. It feels a bit like a toy, but I could show you. It is quite stiff. It's not like a toy build quality. It's really very good quality. It's very stiff, and like I said, it delivers great performance. Okay, I think that's gonna wrap this whole review up. That was my first ever review of any kind of equipment. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If you did enjoy it or you have any additional questions, please leave me a comment. Subscribe for more if you're looking forward for any more reviews. And I see you guys later. Take care.